Rumor has it this is the end of the line for the Chevrolet Blazer, a two-row crossover that has given buyers an opportunity to get something that is fun and enjoyable, but also relatively affordable. When the Blazer first came out last decade, there was so much controversy. For one, it wasn't off-road worthy, and two, it kind of gave you this feel of being a lifted four-door version of a Chevrolet Camaro, which is somewhat blasphemous to say. However, this vehicle has taken that ethos and applied it to this segment, which is kind of rare to see right now in 2025. Now, if you're someone looking for an affordable, compact crossover, but you want a vehicle that is going to put you on the edge of your seat, that's where the Chevrolet Blazer has slot into place. But now, heading into 2025 and moving forward, the Blazer might not be making a lot of sense anymore in the lineup, but also for this segment that is beginning to evolve. However, that isn't going to stop me today, because we're going to take a good long look at what this vehicle has to offer. We're going to check out the exterior, the interior, take it out for a quick test drive, and see why, if you are in the market for a two-row crossover that's more than one-dimensional, maybe a jack of all trades, then maybe taking a look at the Chevrolet Blazer might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Copeland Chevrolet here in Hudson, Massachusetts, for letting me come down here to check out the Chevrolet Blazer. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Chevrolet inventory. So as always, let's begin with pricing. For 2025, with the Chevrolet Blazer we have today, this is the 2LT, coming in at just under $40,000. This is the base trim for 2025. You can go with the 3LT, the RS, or the Premier. I think a lot of buyers look at the Blazer and immediately think of the RS with that V6, with the aggressive body lines and demeanor, and also truly being that lifted four-door Chevrolet Camaro. Whereas the 2LT is definitely more of a base trim. You can see that from the exterior, and also kind of looks like every other compact crossover out there. But there is a lot more to this vehicle than meets the eye, and as we're going to find out throughout this entire review, that this crossover still provides a lot of value here in this market. Now, in regards to the design of the Blazer, there is a lot to digest here, and on top of that, there is a bit of a history here with this model, because what you see for the front fascia, this kind of pioneered what you now have with the Trax, Trailblazer, and even the Equinox, where up front you are going to have the split headlight housings, where you have the daytime running lights separated from the main headlights. Now, this is all LED, which is great to see, which gives you more of a higher quality appearance, especially for a base trim such as this. Now, also on top of that, too, we see some other design language here that we also find on other models in the lineup, such as this nice little chrome strip here that runs the length of the front fascia through the front grille. Also, you have more of that aggressive design, where it does look dynamic and somewhat sporty. Now, what I also like too about the Chevrolet Blazer is that you are going to have some contrasting accents here alongside the chrome strip, where you have some brushed aluminum accents here for the lower portion of the front bumper, but that also contrasts very well with the cladding here. Now, with the Blazer, this isn't going to be an off-road worthy SUV. This is mainly designed to be a sports crossover, but with that cladding, you can take on some of the elements. So once again, it's more than one-dimensional here, which I think a lot of buyers are most certainly looking for at around $40,000. Then as you make your way over the side profile, you are going to receive 18-inch alloy wheels. However, for this trim, 20s are optional. Would I recommend that though? Not really. And the reason why I say that is because with the 2LT, you're looking for comfort, you're looking for quality, you also want that value at $40,000. The 18-inch wheels are going to give you some decent on-road comfort and also minimize that road noise. Sure, with the 20-inch wheels, this vehicle looks very aggressive, and that would be a better choice if you go with an RS. But with the 2LT, you want a vehicle that is a bit more family-friendly and also higher quality. So I would say definitely stick with those 18s. You are going to have body color match side mirror caps, and on the inside you are going to have some gloss black trim, which is really nice. You notice the gloss black trim that outlines the windows. I really like that touch. A two-tone look goes very well for this model. Now, no surprises here for 2LT. You're not going to receive turn signal indicators. However, we do have blind spot detection for added safety. Then as you make your way around to the back, this right here is why the Blazer is starting to show its age a bit. With the taillight housings, this kind of reminds me of last generation's Chevrolet Equinox and possibly Traverse. And when you look at where we are now in 2025 with that Equinox, with that Trailblazer, the Trax, and that Traverse, the Blazer looks kind of out of place here, at least for the rear fascia. Now, it still had the sportier attributes and qualities that really we don't see anymore in this market. A lot of the competitors are going a bit more upscale or off-road worthy, whereas the Blazer, this is designed to take on that Ford Edge, which we no longer have here in the US. Now, for the lower portion of the rear bumper, it mimics what you have for the front fascia. We have the cladding here and then also the brushed aluminum accents. And then for me, what really ties everything together here for this model and lets you know that it is sporty, you have the dual exhaust outlets, which are visible, which is a nice touch. Then taking a quick peek under the hood for the 2025 Chevrolet Blazer 2LT, you are going to receive a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 228 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. It is paired with a 9-speed automatic transmission. Now, you can go with front-wheel drive, which is standard, or all-wheel drive for better yaw capability and versatility, which is what we have here today for our model, which is why this Blazer comes in at around $40,000. Now, I know a lot of you are probably saying, but with the Blazer, I'm going to want to go with the RS at the very least with that V6. The Turbo 4 can't possibly offer me a fun driving experience. Well, you couldn't be more wrong. What you have here with this Turbo 4 is something that is quite peppy and also rather spry. This is not going to be a sedated, compact crossover that is boring and numb. You are going to have some fun here on those weekday commutes. We'll talk about this later on in this review. But also it comes down to the platform and suspension, where this vehicle is going to be aggressively tuned. It's not going to be lacking when you are in the corners or on those winding back roads. So you should have a lot of fun here with this model. But more importantly, let's talk about that fuel economy. You're looking at right around 22 miles per gallon in the city and 27 miles per gallon on the highway for a combined average of 24 miles per gallon if you go with all-wheel drive. That is most certainly not the best in this segment, but probably not the worst. So I think that if you are looking for a vehicle that is more fuel efficient, you might want to go with that Chevrolet Equinox or possibly that Blazer EV. Hopping inside the Chevrolet Blazer 2LT, you are going to receive heated cloth seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side having power adjustability, whereas the passenger will have to manually find the ideal seating position, which I am a bit surprised by that, because you would think that for a vehicle at around $40,000 and also model sitting above the Equinox, you would have power adjustability for both front seats, but that just isn't the case. In regards to the comfort factor, they do provide a decent amount of cushioning and support. Bolstering isn't too aggressive though, so if you think you're hopping into a sports crossover, that is not happening with the 2LT. You might want to go with the RS, giving you that V6, but also the more aggressive interior that might be matching what you're looking for out of a vehicle such as this. For the rest of the interior though, this right here demonstrates as to why Chevrolet is moving on, and it's most because of the technology, not necessarily the dashboard layout. Because in front of you, you are going to have a small information display in between your analog gauges. Now, this wasn't uncommon to see in the Chevrolet lineup or out of GM products 5, 6, or 7 years ago. But now in 2025, the Trax, Trailblazer, and Equinox have full digital gauge clusters. And even for a Trax, you don't have to go too high up in the trim levels to receive a nice full digital gauge cluster and infotainment system. Whereas for a 2LT at around 40 grand, this is a bit jarring to say the least. Then taking a look at the infotainment system, this has given me flashbacks to when I first started doing car reviews on this channel many years ago, back in 2017 and 2018, because this is the old Chevrolet infotainment system. Now, you're still going to have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility, but this is far from what you now have with the Equinox, where you have Google built-in software. And we're also seeing similar layouts with the Trax and Trailblazer, so this is a bit more old school. Now, I think some of you who are not tech savvy are going to really appreciate this because it is rather straightforward. You have all your widgets in place right here for your audio, phone, Wi-Fi hotspot, settings, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and apps. The resolution and quality is still pretty good for 2025, and better yet, there's no lagging here. So the responsiveness is also on par with other vehicles in this market. At the bottom of the screen will be quick access icons to get different menus efficiently, such as your home screen, your radio, your phone connectivity, your onboard compass, and also from here you can access your OnStar advisor. But then also you can customize your dual zone climate control from here. So you have your AC, front and rear defrosters, and that dual zone climate control. However, you're still going to have physical buttons and dials beneath the head unit. And those dials are the vents right here, which I think is pretty cool. It's a really cool design that I think some of you might really enjoy. The Chevrolet Blazer was a bit more cutting edge in the lineup back in 2018. And you can have all your buttons here for your front and rear defrosters, AC, fan speed, fan direction. So you can have more of a tactile and analog experience here, which I think a lot of you are definitely going to like. When placing the Blazer in reverse, you are going to receive a rear backup camera with trajectory, but no other camera angles, which isn't too much of a surprise for a base trim and also for a crossover at around $40,000. Now, you are going to have a good amount of visibility here. It seems like this is a 180-degree view right off the bat. Some vehicles give you two different angles to work with, but with the Blazer, it's just that one angle. Next to your infotainment system, you are going to notice some buttons here for your auto start stop, your hazards, also, of course, your push button start. To the right side will be the glove box button, so that opens up automatically, and traction control on and off button. Then obviously beneath the head unit will be your home screen and your volume and tuning knobs. Then continuing on towards the center console, you will find a USB-C and USB-A outlet, and beneath that will be a cubby for some smaller items such as a wallet or a smartphone. Now you can get a wireless phone charging pad. It is optional for the 2LT. For the center console itself, you will have a gear selector here, but then also a drive mode selector for off-road mode, then also sport, and then you can access all-wheel drive mode as well, giving you more versatility when you do encounter snow-covered roadways. Then for the center storage compartment, there is plenty of room for smaller items, and you will find a 12-volt outlet here. So you could probably store a couple smaller gadgets or some smaller items, maybe even a couple small water bottles, which is great to see. Now before we continue on for the second row, let's talk about the optional packages that are available for the 2LT. So for $690, you are going to have the driver confidence package, giving you rear park assist, rear cross traffic alert, lane change alert, and side blind zone alert or blind spot detection. Now we have that equipped on our model, as we already talked about with the exterior with that blind spot detection. I would say definitely go for it. For only $690, you're getting that extra safety, which is great to see. But probably more importantly, and this is really something you're going to have to think about with the Blazer 2LT, because you could just go with the 3LT and get more creature comforts available for this model, is the convenience package at $1,225. And this gives you a plethora of options here that I think is definitely going to give you a lot more value out of the 2LT. It's just that $1,200 is a bit of a steep price hike there. So with this package, you are going to receive adaptive cruise control, wireless phone charging pad, auto dimming rear view mirror, power liftgate, that is huge. Also, black roof-mounted side rails, which would go hand in hand with the gloss black trim we have seen for the exterior, for the inside of the side mirror caps, and then also outline the windows. That would be a nice touch. And then also enhanced automatic emergency braking. So you get some extra safety, you get some creature comforts. At $1,200, I still think that is a bit more of a steep price hike. But then again, if you're just looking for an affordable vehicle such as this with the 2LT, that might be worth it at the end of the day. Then for passengers in the back, they're going to receive a lot of interior space here with the Blazer. And you would think that from the outside that wouldn't be the case, because you have that lower roof line, and even from the outside, it looks somewhat small. It doesn't look like a big crossover at all. But the interior has a different story to tell. So passengers back here are going to receive right around 39.5 inches of legroom, which, to put that into perspective, is not too far off a Honda CR-V, Toyota RAV4, Hyundai Tucson, or Volkswagen Tiguan. This is actually a very family-friendly crossover, which makes it very versatile in more ways than one. So first you're telling me that it's a bit more sporty and aggressive than a Chevrolet Equinox, and now you're telling me it's practical, it's comfortable, it's family-friendly. This is why I don't know why Chevrolet is moving on from the Blazer. There is a lot of potential here for a future generation. I just hope Chevrolet listens to customers and keeps it in the lineup. Now, there's a lot more to talk about, though, because you have a lot more shoulder room here compared to other compact crossovers. And because you don't have a center hump here, you can definitely have a third person in the center. This is a 5-passenger vehicle overall, and you won't be fighting for that shoulder room. That is great to see. But also, these seats do recline a bit by about 5 to 10 degrees, maximizing headroom, but also making it very comfortable for passengers in the back on those longer road trips. So there's a lot to work with here. Even though this is just a 2LT and these are cloth seats, everyone should be comfortable, which is great to see. Also back here, we'll have two center mounted air vents to go along with a USB-C and USB-A outlet. And then to round out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with two cup holders. Making our way around to the back one more time to take a look at the rear cargo area. As previously mentioned, our model does not have a power liftgate, but it is optional for the 2LT. Behind the second row seat, you're looking at right around 30.5 cubic feet of room, which isn't class leading in this market, but isn't too far off most of its main competitors. Now, this is pretty good though, where you can easily store probably 10, 11, 12, 13 bags of luggage back here with no issues at all if you are going on a road trip with the family. Also on top of that, there are the indentations for the rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. Now there's also some side pockets here back here on both sides of the cargo area for some smaller items, maybe a couple water bottles, car detail equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. Now with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 64 cubic feet of room, which again, this is what made this particular market so great, because it is a bit more practical than some compact crossovers out there, while also still giving you something a bit different and unique, where with the Blazer, it's sporty, it's aggressive, it's fun. Other competitors are a bit more upscale and luxurious, or maybe even off-road worthy. So this is where the Chevrolet Blazer gives you a bit more flexibility compared to, say, the older Chevrolet Equinox back in 2019 or 2020, and also giving you a vehicle that's a bit more well-rounded. Then beneath the floor mat, you are going to find a spare tire, so if you encounter flat on those road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. Typically, when manufacturers move on from a particular model in the lineup, there's a good reason. One, it's not selling well. Two, there's too much redundancy in the lineup where it just doesn't make any sense anymore. And then three, it's old and outdated. Well, for one, this vehicle isn't poorly selling. In fact, it's doing quite well in its market for a vehicle of this age. I mean, this generation has been around for a long time. Then for the second reason, there is no redundancy. This does not feel like a Chevrolet Equinox from last generation, and in no way, shape, or form feels like a current generation Equinox either. Then for number three, yeah, because it has been around for quite some time and there hasn't been a meaningful mid-cycle refresh, maybe you could say that it is a bit old and long in the tooth where it's just not competitive with modern two-row crossovers right now. But all Chevrolet really needs to do is give this vehicle the new infotainment system and digital gauge cluster that we see in the Equinox, Trax, and Trailblazer, and then maybe just give it a modest refresh for the exterior and call it a day. But I think Chevrolet is moving on to the electric market, the EV Blazer, and then also focusing on segments that are going to do very well, because this particular market, this two-row crossover market that is above the compact crossover segment, is starting to fade out a bit. As we're seeing right now, it is beginning to evolve with the Honda Passport becoming more off-road tuned, off-road worthy. Now with the Blazer nameplate, you could make this off-road worthy. It would require a new platform and maybe a whole new generation, which is probably why Chevrolet doesn't want to continue on. But moving on from all of that, what you have here with the Chevrolet Blazer is a fun daily driver, a crossover that can keep you engaged on those long road trips or on those long weekday commutes. Because I do think that some people might think that a Chevrolet Equinox is a bit slow, lethargic, and just not going to capture your attention, although I do think that with the new technology, it is most certainly competitive in its class. But with the Blazer, what you have here is a vehicle that I think is going to be more than one-dimensional, because what you have here with the suspension and the steering input, it feels sporty and it feels dynamic, which some vehicles in this market don't exhibit those qualities and attributes. Now the thing with the Turbo 4 is that this isn't going to be the most dynamic trim or powertrain for this model, which is why I think so many people are more apt to go in the RS direction, maybe even the Premier. But then again, at $50,000, now you're cross-shopping it with some maybe luxury crossovers out there, or vehicles that are now a bit more refined and higher quality, and that's the direction that this particular market market is going in. It's either off-road worthy or luxury, and I don't think Chevrolet wants to do that since you have GMC and Buick as being subsidiary brands. So I think what you have here with the Blazer right now in 2025, if this is an option for you, is a crossover that's going to be a bit more fun than all of its closest rivals. It feels a bit more on edge, and also with this powertrain and transmission, it is spry and responsive, more importantly. Now, yes, with the 2LT, it does show that it has more of this bass feel to it. You feel that with the steering wheel, you feel that with the dashboard, and more specifically for this generation, you also see that with the technology as well. But if you're just looking for a fun daily driver, one that is practical, one that isn't going to lull you to sleep on those weekday commutes, I think that's what the Blazer really slots into place very nicely. Now, at highway speeds at around 65 miles an hour, road noise really isn't too bad. And, you know, again, this is the 2LT with a smaller tire size, so that's to be expected. But you would think that for a model that is so old now in this segment, that there would be a lack of refinement or a lack of quality. And that just isn't the case for what I'm experiencing right now with this particular trim. It has a nice composure on the roadways. It has some sense of a lower center of gravity, which again is a bit of a surprise to me. But you can feel that in the suspension, that this isn't softly tuned. This isn't meant to be your typical compact crossover. This is meant to be something a bit more, a vehicle that you can throw around in the corners, have some fun on those winding back roads, which is why I think the Blazer still deserves to be in the lineup moving forward into the second half of the 2020s, because there is no redundancy here compared to the Chevrolet Equinox. This is something completely different. Now, I have been in sport mode the entire time, and the best part about this here is that sport mode doesn't feel fake or inauthentic, where, you know, you get those aggressive gear shifts or things just don't feel right compared to a true sports crossover. So I can really appreciate that. In the corners, the steering is pretty firmly weighted here, and that gives you some feedback in those corners. Now, in regards to the seat positioning and overall vision that you have here to work with, you have a nice panoramic view. A-pillars are somewhat thin, but there might be some blind spots here and there when you are approaching intersections or red lights. Then taking a look at your side mirrors, they are decently sized and somewhat aggressive, so I can see what's in my blind spots and the lane next to me. Then looking out back, you have that nice hatchback-like rear fascia here, and I can see what's directly behind me. So unless you have someone sitting in the center back there, you're going to have no issues in regards to visibility. Then in regards to seat positioning, you don't really feel like you're sitting on top of this crossover, which is great because this isn't a typical SUV. This is a traditional crossover that has car-like driving characteristics and tendencies, but it is lifted up off the ground. So you still feel like you're one with the chassis here, which is pretty nice to see, especially for a lot of crossovers in this market that don't provide that sensation. But all in all, after this quick test drive, I mean, I'd hate to call myself an advocate for keeping the Chevrolet Blazer in the lineup, but I think it would be a bad mistake to move on from this generation or just move on from this vehicle in general, because I do think that there is still a market out there for fun crossovers, especially under $50,000. Now, of course, they probably wouldn't give you a V6 for a 26 model, a 27 model, seeing as though that this particular market is starting to move away from larger powertrains. But still, if you give us a sports tuned suspension, a peppy turbo 4, and also vehicle modern technology, I think it could sell. But we'll have to wait and see where the market heads and what Chevrolet plans on doing in the future, because there is a lot of questions about the whole EV market with the new administration and where we're going in the future. So who knows? I mean, I would love to see the Chevrolet Blazer stick around in this particular configuration. But then again, looking at where competitors are going, maybe you go back to the traditional version of a Blazer, make it off-road worthy, give it all-terrain tires, you know, change up the generation and platform, and really fall right in line with what the market wants right now, and that is adventure vehicles. So there's a lot of options out there, but I think right now, if you are in the market for a two-row crossover, you look at the Chevrolet Equinox or other vehicles in this market, and you're like, I want something a bit more fun, I want something that's more than just one-dimensional, and maybe more of a jack of all trades, then that's where the Chevrolet Blazer falls right into place. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review for the 2025 Chevrolet Blazer 2LT. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time.